All right, everybody, we are at the top of the hour. So first thing, just someone give me a thumbs up or something in the chat. You guys can hear me and hopefully see me somewhere on the screen. All right, outstanding. Thank you, sir. All right, so got a few of us here. So again, thank you all for showing up. What we're going to do today is just kind of give an update of where we are in the class, go over those last remaining assignments, and then for whatever time we have left, it's actually one of my favorite things to do, which is what I call miscommunication in business. There's some funny ones, some not so funny ones, but if you have any examples of your own, please bring them out. So all right, and then guys, this is interactive, so if you got questions, please either pop them in the chat, come off mute, or whatever you need to do there. So all right, so first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the grade book here and just see where everybody's, and on the whole I'm really happy with everybody's performance so far, and just looking at the amount of most of the assignments everybody's done so far, which really makes me happy. I taught this class quite a few times, and by now, there's usually a lot of stragglers, or a fair number, but really everything through week 2, everybody's complete. There's a couple of folks who need to do that Unit 3 assignment and the Unit 4 journal, and then a couple, one or two need to finish up that week 5 discussion board. So those are folks I'm a little concerned with. So, but on the whole, guys, really happy with the progress you guys are making. And then actually looking ahead, geez, about a third of you appear to have done everything except for this live session. So, I'm sure after today, you guys will be done with the class. So well done. All right, so let me go over just kind of where we are for the rest of the assignments. These are the ones you guys have already done. And now we're in week 6. So all of you, my friends, are getting 8% of your total grade for showing up and listening to me talk to you for half hour or so or more. You just remember, for those of you who are here. Oh, okay. Anthony, you got a question? All right, hearing none. But yeah, and if you have a question, just pop off mute and ask it, please. So just a friendly reminder, you guys have done this one enough times with live lectures. So for the looks like 7 of you who are here, presume you stick around for the whole thing. You go into that assignment, say I attend the live lecture. All right, thank you, Anthony. So for those of you here, you'll pop into you attend the live lecture. Probably tomorrow or so, I'll post those grades. And for those of you who are at the end of your assignments, you're all done. For those of you who are watching the recordings, as you've heard me say last time, you need to watch the whole thing. I think you get some valuable info from that, but also you need to write 3 takeaways of what I talk about. And again, friends, I've done this lecture enough times. I pretty much know what I say at a high level, or at least at the 20,000 foot level. So so don't make it up. And so I'll just leave it there. You've heard me say it before. There's been a lot of folks who just want to write some kind of essay, and that's silly and a waste of time. So, all right, the next, you have the written assignment, which is more of an infographic. We'll talk about this in a few minutes. That's 10% of your grade. Next week, for those who haven't done it, there's a written paper that's 20% of your grade. That's the largest, as I call it, the point getter for the entire class. Week 8, you got 2% for the knowledge check, which, remember, you have unlimited attempts there, so no reason not to knock that out of the park. And then the journal. So you'll get high-level overview of what's left in the class. Let's move on to the granular stuff. So Unit 6. Let me go over to my notes so I don't miss anything here, friends. So you're gonna again, 10% of your grade. You're going to pick a multinational firm. You're the one that you did in Unit 2. That's entering a foreign market, and you're going to do a 1-page graphic presentation. The stuff that I really care about is a professional appearance in there, and to keep the text succinct. Make sure there's nothing else there. So the assignment, if you look into it, recommends 3 pieces of software, and I played around with them a little bit earlier this week. One's Canva, Piktochart with a K, and Visme, if I'm saying it correctly. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And then what I can say is I played around with them. They're pretty easy to use, at least from my perception. So you'll type in what you want to do. I want to do this type of an infographic. It'll give you some kind of templates, and you put in your context or your content. As long as it looks professional and it makes sense with the content, you guys are going to probably do well. I tend to be a less is more person, but have enough content that that you get out the content that you need, because I understand you have to hit the requirements. First off, so has anybody who's on the call here, have you completed this infographic? And if you can, if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience creating, because everything I've seen so far on the whole looks pretty good. Yes, sir, Jared.
Yes, I guess I would just share that I used Canva to complete mine. I used the free trial. You can pay to get a premium version. I didn't pursue that. I think as I was tinkering with options within there, I went through 5 different graphics before actually built 5 different products and submitted one that I like the best. But I think the sky's the limit with what that program can do. The first time I used it.
Okay, appreciate it. And if I'm hearing, it didn't sound like it was too tough to navigate.
No, it's very intuitive.
Okay, wonderful. And I'll echo what Jared said. If I understood it correctly, for all 3 of these pieces of software, there is like a free component. I remember something that like you have 2 credits left is what I remember as I was playing around with it. And so you probably do a couple freebies, which will get you through this class and maybe the next one, although this tends to be the last class for the string for all of you guys. So, but no, I appreciate that, Jared. And anybody else have an experience to share? All right, so let me do this a little differently. So anybody have questions on this assignment? Since there's a few folks who are not, or quite a bit of the class who's not attending, you guys get to be the voice of the class. So, all right, Matthew, no questions. Thank you very much. We'll give just one more second, and then if you don't have any questions, we'll move on to the next thing. All right, going once and going twice. All right, next up. All right, thanks, sir. So Unit 7 assignment, this is 20% of your total grade. This is the biggest point getter, as I call it. Here's the biggest thing I'll start with is you're using the same company that you did in Unit 3. There is some duplication, so within reason, drop in what you need to from that Unit 3 assignment. Take my comments into account because anybody who's ever taken a class with me or you now have some experience with me, stuff that I care about, making sure you're citing for support. Excuse me. Making sure you're using good academic sources, so Wikipedia doesn't count. Somebody's blog, somebody's blog does not count. You good academic sources. The other thing when it comes to the page length is it's full pages. So if it says 10 pages, your title page doesn't count, your reference list doesn't count, and 10 full pages. You heard me say it before. It's not 9 full pages and a couple lines into the next one. Similarly, if you're a couple lines short on that 10th page, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but there is something of an eyeball test. Okay. So other things to think about here. Hold on one second. Somehow I'm getting a call from, I know who that is, and they can wait. So anyhow, where I was going with this is there's about, give or take, I got to count the sections. There's about 9 sections, 10 pages of content. Not saying it's a perfect lineup of about a page and change each, but if you use that, it might help you. So in no particular order, we'll just kind of go down it. Questions, comments. Again, this is the big one. We ask a lot of you here. So a background of the company, I think, and all of this I'm really reading from the assignment, so I don't want to just read to you, but just give you some highlights here. The backgrounds, like the public perception of the firm, the key services, the customer base, what the company does as a whole. The internal and external environment, so that's things like SWOT and PESTLE, which SWOT is a little bit down below is another item as well, but who are the competitors, any kind of trends going on. Third is partnerships and mergers, acquisitions, any of that that's going on. There may not be any, just note that. You are going to do a SWOT analysis, and guys, you've heard me say this before. What I really want you to do is not just grab somebody's SWOT analysis, copy paste, and slap it onto yours. I would like you to bring in a couple different sources. You basically do the work and not just, again, rip and copy and paste somebody else's. SWOT's probably the one time I would be okay if you guys are using bulleted lists. Anybody who's seen me, if you do start doing lists, I go, hey, they make them really choppy. SWOT, you can kind of get away with that and be okay. Just have a little bit of meat on there, as opposed to a strength is good customer base. Well, what does that mean? Add a little meat there. Global strategies, we want 2 examples of any global strategies. You guys have a lot of latitude here. You're doing the research on them. Let's see here. Sustainability, so that's kind of think like green, green operations or anything like that. And you'll even see here in the assignment, it'll say you may use, you may refer to previously submitted assignments. So again, what you did in Unit 3, if you need to, feel free. I do pay attention to the similarity score, but I also have to take into account your prior work. Let's see, structure of the firm, leadership, is it hierarchical, or is it, other companies are more bubbles, if you will. Talk about the leadership, and then here's the last one: is make recommendations for improvement. You guys at this point, you'll know the company well. You guys again have a lot of latitude here. The biggest thing, and you've heard me say it a bunch of times here, is it's not just, hey, I think this is what it should be. You need to bring in some kind of research to say this is why this is the best option. So I just dropped a lot of stuff on you about the content of this assignment. So let me back up for 1 second. Questions, comments, complaints. Okay, going once and going twice, friends. All right. So let me go back and just real quick on the formatting of things. I went through in graphic detail in Unit 3. Not gonna belabor the point, but APA is important. The good sourcing, citation is important. Also that academic tone. Any of you guys will see it if you did it in week 3. Remove yourself. It's not I think. You can make that same point without saying I. It becomes a lot stronger. I've seen some papers where there's so much I in there. It's about the person writing the paper and not about the analysis. So. And I'll move on from there. But again, guys, if you have questions, there'll be time at the end for Q&A. All right, so week 8, we're into it. The journal assignment, as you've seen in week 4, same thing here. Pretty much less formal, 200 words. I do count the words if it looks pretty short. So if you're going to go lower than that, your grade will be reflected accordingly. Grammar and punctuation counts, but you're not going to need to cite. So that one's pretty straightforward. The last one here, knowledge check. Excuse me here. There should be 5 questions. 2% of your total grade is answering those 5 questions. You have unlimited attempts, so again, guys, no reason why you shouldn't get all the points on that. So Look, now that is all of the content in the remainder of the class. So I'm gonna stop for just a second. Questions, comments, concerns. All right, thank you, Anthony. All right, let me move on to another topic here. All right, late policy. We spoke about this last time, and I found a little bit of a modification about something that I talked about last time, and I'll get there in a moment. So remember, there's that 1 week grace period that's built into the assignments. And so by that, you don't have to say, hey, Mike, I got an issue, and I'm, with that week 6 thing, kind of have a week. You're good. It's built in. What I've said before, and here's where I have to modify it, is I'm always nervous about the last day of class. And so I always tell you that, that week 8 assignment is pretty light lift comparatively, especially after week 7. So I'm always a big believer, get it done and get it done early so we don't have any kind of anxiety. I just received an email from my lead faculty earlier this week that says up to, so the class ends on a Tuesday night, 11:59 p.m. So it's called Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. From what he'd said, we've got 5 days where you guys can upload assignments. What I'll say is if the class is not open and available to you, there's nothing I can do. So this is where I get very nervous. This is the first time I've heard it. So I would strongly recommend that you hand everything in before the last day of the class, which is, I'd have to look at let me pull the calendar here real quick and tell you. Okay, I do math for a living, right, guys? Week 7. I want to say the 4th, and if I'm wrong, guys, but you guys know when the class ends. So let's say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in theory, you have until that following Sunday to upload assignments. Again, this is my first time hearing that, so again, I'm a little nervous, or a lot nervous. If the class is not available, there's nothing I can do. You can't email me assignments. I don't have the ability to reopen it. So that's what I'm being told, but I'm going to strongly encourage you to get everything done before then. And the last comment on that is, look, we're all adults, and we all know there's life. I have a full-time job, as most, if not all of you do, and family obligations. Do what you got to do. You got to take care of your family, you got to take care of your job, and all that. So that's why the university is building in some of these protocols to help with that. So was that clear as mud? Hopefully, but any questions or concerns on that? All right, appreciate that. All right. So before I go, now I'm going to transition into again my favorite lesson or part of the talk to do. Any other questions or concerns we need to address before we hop into this next thing? All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, I'm going to leave it up here for a second just because the next visual is a little bit funny. So I'm going to talk about miscommunication in business. And this is relevant because there are so many things that, okay, I don't know where everybody's from here, but I'm born and raised in the US. You go to a foreign country and something that is innocuous here is offensive to others in foreign countries. So I'm going to go for, and maybe not even offensive, but when you hear a translation, you go, ooh, that does not translate well. So does anybody, you guys are all younger, or definitely younger than me, the most famous one involved a vehicle in the 70s. Does anybody remember that story? All right, so the car is called the Chevy Nova, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is in the 70s. We were just coming out of the space race, with the moon landings and all that. And if you go back in history, so I was born in 72. So yep, and Anthony just said in Spanish it translates to it doesn't go, or no go. But when you think about it, there are all these companies like Quasar and Pulsar, like all these very space themed companies and products. I'm sure Chevy went down that road. They went down to Spanish speaking countries, and yep, it didn't sell for a darn. They may have retitled it, I don't remember, but that one failed. So another one, I'm going to show this next one here in a second, and this is you're going to see that on the slide. It says P Cola, and so that is a company in Ghana, or a product in the country of Ghana. In that language, it means very good. To me, in my American brain, it means something completely different. So I'm gonna just take that off, just so I don't want you guys to look at that for the rest of the time. So here's what I'm gonna go over some of these. If you guys have some examples, please. Some of these are funny as all get out. A couple are pretty serious, and I'll get in front of those as time goes by. I actually went online and pulled up like another 20 of these. So I'm not gonna do all of them, but some of these I think they just crack me up. So the next one, so it's actually personal experience. So in high school and college, this is like 88 to 95, tells you how old I am. I worked for a company called Save-On Drugstore, and they're mostly in California. They get bought out by a company called Osco, which is based out of Chicago area. And it's a translation for Owners Service Corp. It's a real bland name. Well, they buy out these companies in Southern California, where I grew up. And the next thing you know, they started losing sales. And what we found out, or I found it down the line, is that in Spanish, the word Oscar, and I apologize if I'm butchering the phrasing, it is basically something that makes you want to vomit. And so it's pretty much a rough thing. Hey, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to go into a drugstore that says I want to make you throw up. So they changed the name back to Save-On. Downstream many years, the company's now CVS. So that's another one. This one's a visual, and I hope that we don't get the. Let me see if I'm going to take off the sharing. Let's see if I can stop it. Stop it. Let's see here. Hopefully you guys can see me. If not, yeah. So hopefully every time I do this one, there is a visual that pops up and it's funny as all get out. But everybody see what I'm doing right here? You know what that is? Hopefully y'all understand it's a peace sign, right? Yep. And luckily, sometimes I get balloons when I do it. Thank God I didn't do it this time. Now, what happens if I do it with the back of my hand? I'm not going to do it because it's got a certain connotation. I'm going to tell you in a minute. So if I do it with the back of my hand, if I do this and I turn it around, which I'm not going to, it is the equivalent in like the British area of the middle finger. And there's a story, and I believe it was I was younger, but it might have been like the first President Bush. I think he got himself in trouble in maybe Australia. And if I'm wrong on the story, I apologize. But that's old recall. But he was in the caravan. And instead of doing this, he did it the other way and got himself into a little bit of hot water. All right, guys, I'm going to do the first serious one. I'm preempting it. So in my day job, I've been over to China a couple times and heavy Buddhist company or country, excuse me, or a lot of the old temples. And so I get up there and there are swastikas all over the place. But when I find out there, I was traveling with my buddy who and he's Buddhist, and it's a very peaceful symbol in the Buddhist religion that goes back thousands of years. However, co-opted by some very evil people. We're now 80, 90 years ago, and it's got a really negative connotation. So here I am. I'm at the top of a tower somewhere in China, and they have this bush, these gardens I was looking at, and they form the bushes into a swastika. And I take a couple of pictures. I come home, show my wife all the photos from the trip. And by the way, she's Jewish. She sees that. I go, nope, that's not cool. My honey, this is not what it means. But the challenge is, it's in her family and in that culture, it's very deep and ingrained. There was a certain meaning. It's just two different things. I'll do a couple funny ones, and then I'll get into the other serious ones. So. This one says Pepsi's debut of the Come Alive with the Pepsi generation. This has got to be from the 80s. And I want to say like Michael Jackson was one of the spokespeople at the time. So the Chinese translation of Come Alive with the Pepsi generation was Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave. That was pretty funny to me. Let me see. Schweppes tonic water failed in Italy when the name was translated to Schweppes toilet water. So that's a bad one. Oh, geez. Let me see. Sorry, read these. It's been a little bit. The classic Kentucky Fried Chicken slogan, "Finger licking good," was originally translated into Chinese as "Eat your fingers off." Let me see. Let me do my other serious one because this is one I personally experienced. So, for those of you who don't know, in my other life, I work in law enforcement, and my partner at the time is Chinese, and a lot of the stuff we worked was in that community. And so we were dealing with a cooperator who we were, whatever the case was about. I don't even remember this one anymore, at least the details of it. But we're in the car, and the two of them were talking in Mandarin, and I hear repeatedly what I think is the N word. And for anybody on the recording who doesn't understand, it's a very offensive word for Black people. And I'm gonna say I lost my cool. And I said, "What in the world is this guy saying?" I won't use all the language I said, but we'll leave it there. And they had to stop because the word is completely innocuous. And I've heard two different translations, and the pronunciation, if the word is nagar, and so with enough of an accent and said fast enough, you know where I'm going with that. And so it means either like a thinking word, or it means that dude over there. And so they tell me, sorry, anybody who's from Southern California, the San Gabriel Valley, it's got a lot of Asian population and a good sized Black population. They tell these stories, and this my partner tell me, you have this warehouse, and now you've got the half Chinese, half Black folks, and they break up for lunch, and they're talking about Bobby over there, and they use that word. Now you got right on hands because people thought that they were offended, and that's a horrible thing because it's a completely innocuous word. But again, it's deep and ingrained to people. So that's the other serious one. I'm going to go into some more of the funny ones because I don't like ending on serious notes. Some of these are bad. HSBC, the bank, had to undertake a $10 million rebranding campaign after they found out that their translation of "assume nothing," which was their catchphrase at the time, was interpreted into several countries as "do nothing." So that's a bad one. Let me see. Oh, geez. Okay, Coors. American beer maker Coors discovered the slang doesn't always translate well when launching its Turn It Loose campaign into Spain. It appears that the executives forgot to ensure the translation would be good. And so when that phrase was translated to Spanish, the tagline used an expression that's commonly interpreted to as "suffer from diarrhea." So yeah, that didn't sell well. I'm not going to talk about that one. That one's pretty rough. Let me see here. Oh, no, I can't talk about those. I actually copied some of these articles, but yeah, some of these I really can't use. Let me see. I'm gonna have to cut out some of these just because some of them are pretty rough. But here we go. Mercedes-Benz initially launched in China with the name Benzi, I guess for one of their cars, and which translates to "rush to die," which is bad. Although having been driven by some folks in China, I'm being a little sarcastic on that. They drive like wild men and women. Okay, the company Clairol. I got a couple more, and then we'll go to questions and wrap up here for a minute or for the day. Clairol had a hair curler called the Mist Stick that had to be rebranded in Germany after they found out that mist means manure. And so this is the whiskey brand Canadian Mist didn't work either in that country. Let me see. Oh, sorry, that was an email. Let me see. One. Nah, I can't talk about those. Let me see. Last couple here. The Nokia Lumia is slang for prostitute, and I forget what language that is. So that didn't sell. I think it was in like the Eastern Bloc. And then one last one is Siri in the language of Georgia is slang for a man's genitalia. So again, all those things don't don't go very well. So I'll give you a bunch of them, a couple serious ones, a bunch of hopefully humorous ones, but anybody have some examples? And so the point of this though is be careful when you're doing branding or even translations. And actually, I'm going to give you one just cultural thing that I learned in my overseas stuff. So there we go. My credit, grab my AAA card. So in Asian culture, what do we do in the U.S.? Hey, here's my card. You hand it. You pop it in your pocket. I'm trying to think you guys see it. But in Asian culture, you'll see, there's a big to do about you present with both hands, and you also receive it with both hands. And this is something that I learned because you don't want to offend the other person. And also in the States, we just go, oh, great, thanks for your card, pop it in your pocket, move on. But there is a process that I learned. Basically, you receive it, and basically also you present it so that then when they have it in their hands, they can read it. So, upside down for your vision. So you look at it and you inspect it. So you've now read, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and then you can put it away. And that's a proper protocol. So the whole point of that, again, for a little bit of entertainment was, Jerry, very prevalent in Korea. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I definitely know, even when you go to restaurants and the workers are from Asian countries, they'll do the same, like the bill and the credit card and all that. So again, the rationale here was just to give you some fun, but also some things to think about when it's a global economy and you're going to interact with people. So anybody else have any examples? All right. So this is your opportunity. Is there any questions, comments, concerns that we need to address before we wrap up? All right, then. So what we'll do is, excuse me. So, one last thing. So for those of you who are, this is your last class and you're done. Here we go from Anthony. Working for Native American tribes for the coal company to take dry goods or food before talking business. Interesting. Why is that?
Well, we had to do that because it was customary within the Navajo Nation or the Apaches that we would visit elders. So in order, before we talk to business about land or royalties or taxes, we would have to bring either beans or corn or hay for their livestock as an offering, and then they would talk business.
Okay, yeah, and I guess what I see is definitely like the Asian cultures, some of them have a pretty strong drinking culture, and so unless you're starting to get to drinking and drinking pretty heavily, that's when the business work starts. That's what I've been told. So no, I appreciate that. That's an interesting one. So, and anybody else have any? So we're going about if you're wrapping up your class, and this is the last one, you want to get your degree conferred. I don't think it's as big a deal right now because most of the time it's right around the time of graduation where people are in a bit of a hurry. I would say reach out to your academic advisor or coach, and there is a process if they allow it. Things can change over time, but I would definitely recommend you reach out to them because there's nothing I can do to close out the course early. So I'll just get in front of that. So, any last questions or comments before we wrap it up? So, all right, friends, we'll wrap this up. So it's been wonderful working with all of you guys. If you need anything, please reach out to me. But otherwise, we'll return you to your regularly scheduled weekend. So have a great one, friends. We'll talk to y'all soon. And I'll stick around for a couple minutes in case anybody wants to ask some questions offline.